Let's see here. I think we are live. Yes, we are. Not straight out of Compton, but I'm straight out of Louisville. Let's see if everything's working out here on the sound and the video. Um, Giving a little break, see, because I was a little early on the game. Spent a little time looking into the history and a little bit about Highland Park. That's the distillery we're going to take a look at tonight. Hey, Lost Cause, good to see you, man. I really appreciate you joining in, and a big shout out to two of my favorite Canadians. And no, it's not Swami or Daniel, even though I love them too. Trinity and C gave me a shout out on Twitter. I really, really appreciate it, guys, and I should return the favor sometime for you. I rarely get a chance to watch anybody's show, sadly, but I'm gonna make it an extra concerted effort to watch your alls. And I have seen you guys do a couple shows. One of my favorites that Trinity and C did was on the. I remember they were doing like a collection of shootouts, like at one time, and one of the best was like a Grigelicky they had. No, the Glen Alecky, the Glen Alecky, sorry. It was I think it was like a 10-year PX edition, and had to go up to something that I never really would have thought of, but it was a good comparison. And they went into really good notes, taste differences on both. I wish I could remember the other distillery. It's been a while since I saw that one, but that's really stuck out in my mind because I think they did like 3 or 4 at one time. Even with 2 people, it's a lot of drams. So they were definitely having fun. But definitely appreciate you guys out there. Lost Cost says, I saw a shelf of ancient HP 12 bottles yesterday for $100, like 3 versions ago. Wow. I was going to say it's $100, but if it's like the not the 12 in the style of that 18 up there, if it's even the one before that, then I can understand, it being a little pricey. But hey, Jason Coates, good to see you, man. I was hoping you get a chance to stop by. We are going to take a look, and I'm not straight out of Compton, I'm straight out of Louisville, by the way. It's funny, my mom got me some shirts she sent, and I was like, well, this one's going to cut off because usually I sit a little closer and people are going to be like, what the hell? But no, that's Louisville. Yeah, 3 generations ago. That's crazy. Before that one, that's insane. That's a good find. We're going to talk about Highland Park, and as you well know, and this is, I try to gear this show towards both sides, the connoisseurs, the people that are like some of us that have had the 12, the 15, the 18, the 25. We've had the full volumes, and we've had the Valkyries and the Magnuses and the Valknuts and the fire and the ice. We've had the dark, the light. We've been through it all together. And if not together, we've been through it virtually together, through expos, other people's shows, things like that. And it's funny because I was thinking about which distillery to do tonight, and I thought, well, I want to do something I'm very well versed in, and I feel like I know Highland Park maybe just as much, if not more, than like the Ardbegs and the Lafroigs. And the biggest reason is they have a ton, and I mean a boatload of variety. It's just scary what the variety is with Highland Park. And we'll get to more details about how we're going to take a look at each thing. And luckily tonight, I'm going to be doing like a kind of like a side review, we'll say, on something that I got my hands on a while back. We were doing distillery, different distilleries, and I had a group of people that I was exchanging salsa with, and one of the guys, y'all know him as Mr. Lee, also known as Aquaman, because he loves to put water in his drams. Big joke that being extremely sarcastic with that. But Aquaman let me have a little bit of the Highland Park Sven, which is a travel retail exclusive that I have not had before. I have had the Inar, the EINAR, I think it's Inar. And I pleasantly surprised with that one. As well, I've had some decent travel retail exclusives from other distilleries too, like the Bowmore Gold Reef was actually a pretty good taste from what I remember. Kind of similar with tropical notes and whatnot to the Highland Park, the NR, if I remember correctly. It was something similar to that. Anyway, Las Costas is the new tattooed HP, the same as the previously dumpy bottle. Um, the new Highland Park 18 Viking Honor, I believe is what they're calling the new one. Let me do a quick, just a quick look see here. 1 second. Highland Park 18. I usually use distiller.com to get some extra notes and some information if I don't have it memorized. Viking Pride, sorry. The Viking Pride. He's at Las Casas asking if that's the same as this bottle up here, the classic 18 from, I won't say last year, but at least a couple years ago. I believe the answer is yes. From what I've heard, the only one that really had a difference was the new Highland Park 12 versus the old one, but it's only slight difference. Some people have stated that they definitely get a difference of like the matchstick, that heathery peat. It's got like a matchstick, almost like sulfuric note to it. It's a little more profound, I've heard, on the old version of the 12 than the new version, as far as that matchsticky sulfuric kind of tone. I don't get that a whole lot from Highland Park. I know some people that are extremely sensitive to sulfuric tones might get a little more out of Highland Park stuff than like I get it out of Ben Nevis. I get it out of the Bowmore 15 Darkest. I get it out of some Macallans. Definitely like the classic cut has that kind of sulfuric note a little bit to it, as well as I believe I got it out of the oh, what was it? Trying to remember. There was another Macallan that was similar to that, but Mortlock, younger Craigellachie. Are you comparing it to what I'm referring to? Mortlocks, I tend to get a lot of savory, almost like sourdoughy kind of notes on it. Craigellachie's, I've only had the 13 so far, and it was kind of a spicy, white peppery pear kind of a thing. But I haven't got it out of those, but other malts I found sulfur in. Huh. I think that I'm not as I don't can't get it as much as some. I do get it out of a Glendullan, that the Game of Thrones bottle that they had. I forgot the technical name of it. I think it was like a Glendullan Select Reserve, if I had to go by memory. But I believe that was the name of it, and it definitely has a sulfuric kind of a tone. Uh, and Glentour, I've got it from those too. Hey, DHS, really good to see you. Man, I missed you big time last week. I was doing a show on Glenmorangie, I think it was, or Springbank. It might have been the Springbank show I missed you on, a couple of shows back, that I was going through some different tones and notes and such. And I know DHS is a huge fan of Springbank, but hopefully you'll get a chance to watch it if you haven't watched it already. Oh, you was on the Springbank. Okay, maybe it was Glenmorangie. I think we were talking. I mean, we talk about distilleries all the time, but I think that it was the distillery that you. Oh, I remember what it was now. It was the Glenmorangie, because you had a specific bottle that no one else had. I saw your notes on Distiller, and this is why I knew that you had another bottle that I wanted to compare some notes to it. But that's okay. We'll touch base and catch up later. But anyway, we're talking about Highland Park. Now, Highland Park is one of the most northern. I think it is still the most, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, on any of the things that I'm spewing out here, but I'm pretty sure it's still the most northern distillery in Scotland. I know it's in the Orkney Islands, which is way up there in the, which you would consider the islands region. But this is even though they have peat, don't think of their peat is going to be like an Isla peat or a Campbelltown peat at all. It's its own thing because of that region where they are. They get this like real heathery note to their peat, and guess I have to pour a 25. Heck yeah, if you got it, man. I wish I still had some of that. I've had the 25, and I was lucky enough to have a 25 cask strength through exclusive malts. Killed that bottle too, but both were excellent. And I love the tropical notes on the 25 because it's almost, to me, it's like the great fruity aspects of the 18. It's got a really nice sweet smoke, like Adolfo said. Good analysis on that, and that that tropical goodness with that 25. It's even better than the 18, and the 18 is so damn good. It's really tough to think of a Scotch even better than that. I mean, it's in the top three of my all-time favorites. I think the HP 18, HP for Highland Park for short. It's definitely up there with the 25, the 18. And I really like the dark. That was one of the newer ones, but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, they pretty much was reading through on Wikipedia, just trying to get some background notes, if anything stood out. And then, ironically, in 2018, they said, and they're both owned by Edrington. Edrington owns 3 distilleries actually, and one I wasn't even aware of. I knew they had Macallan, which is their flagship main distillery. The sister, I'd say, is Highland Park, and they do really well with that one. And they also have Glenrothes, which I didn't even know. Glenrothes has had a rebranding recently and did a lot of new bottles, a lot of new tastes, and it's gotten a lot better recently. So if you have shied away from Glenrothes, definitely worth taking a look at. I've had a couple bottles myself. This one over here is the 2004, which was a good taste, and they've got a new line. They've got sherries and age statements 18 and all sorts of. I mean, it's just insane. The quality difference from what it was before to what it is now. Definitely worth another look. DHS says they won't let me pour a link to my tasting event picture. Oh no, I'll replace the HP 25 when it's gone, hopefully in a long time. Yeah, that's a very expensive bottle. I think it's like $500 or $600 for that one, and I think it's leaning towards the 600 realm now, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see what if Petite has it. They usually have the 18, the 15, and 25. I can't remember. I mean, they do have specialty ones there. They do have the 25. Oh man, it's gone up to $6.99.97. Oh my goodness. In Maryland, at least. I can't speak for your guys. $4.19. Wow, what a difference. Here in Maryland, man, it is $6.99.97. Can you believe that? That is just crazy money. We'll get to value here in a second, but and I'll talk about some of your options when you're looking for some of these deals. But yeah, 21 was one that with this type of bottle, this is the 18 I've got. I have not had a chance to have the 21 yet, and that is on my to-do list, hopefully before it's completely impossible to find. If they're re-releasing a 21, that would be awesome. And they are really good about age statements recently, I've noticed. They were one of the first distilleries, I think, to take notice that people like us that are the big, Scotch drinkers, we really, really want an age statement if we can get it. I'll show it for you, DHS. I don't mind. As long as it's not like, as long as it's not some sort of weird virus or something, which I don't think you would do. Anyway, but let's get to the goods. Now, when I take a look at these distilleries, and just to give you an idea of what we've done so far, we took a look at Ardbeg, got an A-. We took a look at Bunnahabhain, an A-. We took a look at Kalila, B+. We took a look at Glenmorangie, a B+, Glen Scotia, a B+, Kilchoman, a B+, and Laphroaig, an A-, and Springbank in A-, so far. And the reason why you're probably, saying, well, hell, you're giving everybody, A's and B's. Well, these are the ones I know the best because I know, what I like, and I know that, my tastes aren't really too far off from a lot of people's, and I just started with the best ones. I mean, it's just the way it is. I doubt we're going to see anything above an A- to an A. uh, I don't really give tens. I think I only gave 110 rating of any category, and it was to or did I might have given them a 9.5 actually. Craft for 9.5 for Springbank because they do everything in house. There was only one little thing I could ding them for, and it was the box that they use for their crafting. That's the only thing I think they could have done a little better to make it perfect because they do their bottling in house, their malting in house. Everything is crafted extremely well, and it was tough to find something to really ding them for. Yeah, they don't get a 10 because there's no such thing really as a 10. That was kind of like my whole reasoning for not giving that number. Oh, actually, I take that back. They did get a 10 for variety. Springbank has everything. They have the age statements. They have the casks that, they have the special cask. They have the age statements with the cask. They have peated. They have non-peated. They have heavily peated. They have it all. I mean, I couldn't think of anything lacking. They have older age statements in the 30s. They have down to the 10s. They have a boatload of independent bottling offerings. They have a boatload of distillery offerings. I mean, I could not fault Springbank for anything variety wise, Jason. I know it sounds crazy, but they did get a 10. That was the only one I ever gave a 10 for. If you could think of something to knock them down on variety, I'll give them a 9.5. But I spent some time trying to think of something. It was tough. That's one thing they do really well on this variety. So let's get back to the Highland Park here and focus. Now, the first thing that we like to talk about is the taste. And let's start off with something new for me, maybe not for you guys. These are a little tougher to get. It's that travel retail exclusive I was talking about, this Vin that Mr. Aquaman, Mr. Lee graciously sent. And we'll do a kind of a mini review. Well, I want you guys to talk about taste overall. All the bottles you've ever had at Highland Park, the good, the bad, the great, the fantastic, the ugly. If you've ever had one, I never really had a bad bottle that I can think. I wasn't overly impressed with the Dark Origins I thought was good. It just, to me, it was really, really good fresh. And after like a little bit of time, I think the sulfur really came out with that bottle, and I wasn't as into it as some of the other stuff. But let me know, like 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. What would you rate Highland Park's taste level? And I trust you guys because you guys are in the fields. You know it. You've had just about the same thing as I've had. They're 12, 15 to 18, and even 25s. Their core is solid taste wise. I can't speak as much to the new stuff. I think the 18's the same. If anyone's had the new 18 and thought it was a lot different than this older 18 that I've got way over this way, this 18 here, if you've had the new one and thought it was a lot different than that one, let me know. But I think I did it. I'm trying to remember. I've been to an expo recently last year, and I'm trying to remember if I noticed any differences. Like I said, the 12 was the only thing that was different. I think the new 12 versus the old 12. The 15s I think were the same as the 18s, and I'm not sure if they've changed anything on the 25 or not. I've let this sit out for a good 15, 20 minutes. Oh man, it smells lovely. Oh, it's like a perfect blend of that heathery peat with the fruit. And the fruit's like a tangerine, orange, nectarine, It's got citrus, but it's also got some really deeper things like peaches and mangoes. It's got a little musk in there, a little bit of that heather. I love the combination. That's what makes Highland Park so great taste-wise to me, is that marriage of your sweet factors with the fruit, with the heather savory factor. You got some florals in there, but nothing's off-putting. Really deep, nice flavor. It's one of those things you can nose like all night and actually be. I mean, you definitely want to taste it, but you don't have to really get into it. The florals come in on the if a nose had a finish, it would be like a finish, like a slight amount of lavender, but mostly like really nice medium florals. No lilacs, no overly soapy notes, none of that stuff, thankfully. Maybe a little chocolate nut in there too. This on the nose alone. Hmm. Hopefully it's not overly dry. We'll get to that in a second. But what do you guys think? 1 to 10 on the just talking about the taste factor. Yeah, we're going to be really tough to knock them. The full volume I thought was a great straightforward bourbon cask. The Valkyrie had interesting notes of espresso. The finish wasn't there for me on that one, but that's taste factor wise. That's the only thing I could really bitch about on the Valkyrie. The Velk Nut I thought was a slight bit better. Haven't had the new Velk Father yet. I would like to get my hands on that one. The other ones like these, like the NR was a nice solid Balvenie-esque type of offering, just to give you some specific notes of what I got off of that one in the past. Let me go back to the NR. Here we go. This is what I said about it. Not a bad whiskey, but extremely subtle on all fronts. On the nose, the smoke is barely detected. I can decipher some sherry notes, but even though this ex-sherry on both American and European oak it's just a little too distant. I think the 40 ABV is probably the issue, just a hunch. Being a travel retail exclusive makes me shake my head, because you think that they would be putting something a little bit better, like some 4 or 5 star stuff in there. But for $65 to $75, you can't really, I shouldn't be complaining too much about that. The palate is a bit spicier than fruity, and the water does not really help it out. A short, pleasant finish with tropical remnants of like a medium end Balvenie 14 or so. It's a solid 3 out of 5. Since the finish puts a still drum in my head, the song for this, and I was always trying to find like a song that would make me remind me of the dram. For that one, I chose Jane Said by Jane's Addiction, because it has that really nice still drum in it, tropical notes. And that one was some salsa from Generous Paul, which was nice. This one is a bit different. The nose is not subtle at all. I thought it really had some nice deep peaches, nectarine on the nose with that heathery peat. Love HP Valkyrie. I think you meant the Valkyrie. Valkyrian is like a HP 12 on steroids. Yeah, that's the one that to me had almost like an espresso, like a nice sweet, but yet just slightly bitter enough to make an interesting coffee type finish on it. I just wish the finish was longer. It was a very drying dram to me. And that's the only thing that kind of sometimes will put me off, that some people love, is a really dry finish. If it's overly dry, to me, sometimes I don't really like it as much, but that's a subjective thing. You can't really knock it, but just for personal, review, I thought it was a solid, maybe a 3.75 out of 5. The Valkyrie, I liked it, a bit. But the dark, well, that's a whole nother statement. The dark was the dram of the year last year. The light was really good. Don't get me wrong, but the dark was just had the perfect everything. Except the price was a little high, I thought, for a 17-year. But with some of these 17 and 19-years, I've noticed that if they're specialty casks that they're using, they're going to charge for it. It's a tough one. DHS says they'll give them a 7. Very good, but so many NESs and kind of dull on those. Yeah. I'd rate HP higher if they made a dram like a 2004 HP 15 bottle I had. Was that a independent, or was that a distillery bottle of the 15? Was it like the style? Oops, sorry, wrong hand. Was it styled like this one, or was it was it a different altogether one? I'm trying to envision what you're talking about there, DHS. Jason's leaning toward an 8, and I was leaning towards an 8 as well, because they're good. They're really darn good. I even might be getting closer to a 9, just out of all their variety, all what they have to offer, and caliber. Old box, very different. Oh, okay, because you've been around for a lot longer than I have on these tastings. It sounds like, DHS. It's kind of tough, because if you're used to having even better stuff than what they've had, even though their present stuff is good, it's like, how do you judge that? Because even though you've had something better, you can't really say that it's bad if it's not bad. You know what I mean? I had it on Saturday. Wow. But I've tried most of the NAS stuff, or any of the new blingy H statement bottles. Okay. They don't make any sherry bombs anymore. That was a bomb. Wow. HP doesn't have any sherry bombs? Has anyone tried, and it was on my to-do list, one of the newer ones that I have not tried yet that I would like to maybe take a gamble on, because it's so low price, surprisingly, is that new Twisted Tattoo 19. Is it 19 or 14? I got to look this up. One second. I can't keep all these age statements in my head. Highland Park. I remember it's 16. That's right. Thanks, man. Is that Twisted Tattoo surprisingly priced for like $100 for a 16-year-old whiskey? I'm like, whoa. And I'm hearing good, but not special. And red wine casks. So nope. Huh. Like Brooklotti does Octomore 5 or Talisker 8 and such. I guess a lot of the NA stuff is between 5 and 9 years. Yeah, but I think that you got to be careful, because I think some of these are actually a combination of, yes, maybe the 5 and 9 that you're talking about, but I know that some of these, like the Valkyrie and maybe the Valknut, some of that caliber, I think they mix some older stuff even than that with it, like, maybe not as high as like a 15, but at least like 11 to 12. I think they're playing around with, well, they might even throw some 14 in there, but I think they're mixing some young stuff like the 5.6 with some of the older stuff, and that's the only reason why I think they're not putting an age statement on it, because obviously if it's over a 12, they're slapping a number on it. So you just can't do that technically in Scotland. If any of it is younger than 12, you can't put a 12 on it. So that's why I think you're seeing some of this NES stuff, but I don't think it's all 5 to 6, 7, 8 year stuff. I think they're really taking some more exotic casks that are older and putting it in there, but not much, not half 50-50. They're probably taking like 30 of the old stuff and maybe 70%, 80% of the new stuff. But yeah, I mean, Jason, you're right. I think they're definitely mixing it with some really young 5, 6-year-old stuff. I think it's two-pronged. Most of it's most likely because of supply demand, but also I think that they're experimenting and doing things with some of the stuff that they think, well, we've got this and we've got plenty of this stuff. What could we put with it to make it worth our while? And if you've got 30%, 20% of this, specialized cask stuff to throw in there, then why not? If it sells, I'd rather see more releases like the full volume than sherry bombs, honestly. I'm kind of torn, Jason, on that one, because I do love Highland Park's when they get into their experimentation. Like this Twisted Tattoo is aged in part in first fill bourbon and ex-Spanish Rioja wine casks. So I mean, that's really specific. I like it when they play around a little bit. The For example, the Springbank bourbon, the 14, that's pretty straightforward. The full volume's pretty straightforward. They're okay. The bourbon, just straight ex-bourbon type of casks, but I usually have to have either peat or some sort of sherry or something to liven it up a little bit to get me interested. Because once you've had a really good, Springbank bourbon 14 or like a long row peated straight up or the full volume or something like that, where I'm trying to think of something else that's kind of just basic, kind of like the Kilhoman's 100% Isla stuff, the Brook Lottie Classic Lottie. They're good taste, but they're one dimensional to me. I don't get a whole lot of different crazy notes out of it. But yeah, I like both. Mostly we get middle of the road stuff. I had to maybe side with DHS maybe on this one, but we'll see. I think HP's distillate is special. It doesn't need to be oaked to death. That's a good point, because their core juice is solid. I mean, taste-wise, it's solid. And the nose even is great. I haven't even had to taste this once yet, and I'm still really enjoying it. So taste-wise, was what we're looking at first, and I think I was leaning towards an 8 to 8.5. Someone said an 8, someone said a 7. I believe this is a oh wow, really nice fruit on that. Let me go back here. Now this Vin is the one we're looking at presently. 40% ABV. I am going to bitch a little about the low ABV, guys. Sorry, but 43 to 46 would be so much better, even though it's 3 to 6%. Gimme, please. It makes it just a little. I mean, it's not a mild tasting dram. I actually got a little heat off of it, even just being 40, but it could use a little bit more, because I could put a couple of drops of water and it wouldn't dilute it too much and things like that. But it is what it is. This one is American oak, ex-sherry with a high percentage of first fill. That's interesting, because it doesn't say what the percentage is, but it definitely is like, the whiskey is aged in a high number of American oak ex-sherry casks, with many of those being first fill, but it's like they don't really get more descriptive than that. But I'm not bitching. That's pretty nice. It's a really nice taste on the fruit too. Huh. Does anyone else have this Vin by chance? It's a travel retail exclusive. I know it's harder to find, but some of you guys do travel a lot. This is really complex for just a 40. It kind of reminds me of like the Dalmore King Alexander III. After you put a drop of water, even though it's 40%, it can handle just one little small drop of water, and it really brings a lot of boatload of notes out. This is kind of similar. Like half that. Only the Highland Park travel retail exclusive you've had is the 16. Wings of the Eagle. Okay. Kind of meh. Oh, that's kind of sad. I mean, being a 16-year-old, wow, kind of meh. That's kind of sad. Oh man, we don't get Gordon McPhail locally anymore, really. HP 25 claims heavy amounts of first fill barrels next to a single cast 28. It's got lots of tar barrels next to this. Not here either. I know a shop in Wisconsin that has a couple on the shelf. The Gordon McPhail 9s, yeah, or 8s. Yeah, I think taste-wise, I'm going to go, man, I think I might settle with an 8 for now. I might bump it up to an 8.5 after I think about it for a bit. Because they are solid on taste. I mean, it's a tough one. Consistency, guys. What do you think about consistency? When you open up a bottle of 12, I'll show your thing 1 second. When you open up a bottle of 12, 15, and I'm not talking like, I know that, they make changes, every 2 or 3 years to the bottle. It's going to be, somewhat different. But when you get the same year, within the same year, you get 5 bottles of 15, 5 bottles of 12, 5 bottles of full volume, 5 bottles of whatever it is over time. Do you see consistency there? Is it always good, or is it always so-so, the ones that you think are so-so? I will say that the 18s are always solidly great. I haven't had a bad bottle, and I've had a couple. Few, actually. Same with the dark. I've had the dark a couple times, 2 different occasions, both great. Trying to remember, the 15 I've had twice, and it was solid. It seems like they're pretty consistent on their drams. Does anybody disagree with that at all? Yeah, it's funny. It's like you get fruit. Wish the ABV was a little bit higher. It's got a little bit of a dry finish, but it goes for a while. It's got kind of like the fruit is more in the finish. I was hoping that chocolate would come through that I got off the nose. It has like a chocolatey, nutty nose. And I was hoping I would get it on the palate, but I'm not getting it on the finish or on the palate. Maybe I just need a bigger mouthful. Let's pour a little bit more. It's not bad at all. I love that peachy nectarine note on this dram. That's really good. So cheers to you, Mr. Lee, Aquaman, wherever you may be. If you're watching, you should say something in the chat there, man. He works a lot late shift stuff, so he doesn't get a chance to do live, but hopefully gets to watch on the side. I see a Ralphie might disagree here. Have one of their 12 single casts. Okay. Let's get it for himself for 140. Wow. At the higher end, you have to track the ABV on the 25 releases. They vary. Wow. Then all the NES are one-offs lately, so hard to judge that. Haven't had enough to judge. Yeah. So really have a 12 and 18 to judge consistency on. To me, that is a problem. Also, a 10, if you count Europe, I can agree. I want to try that 10. I will say every HP has a similar profile. That could be good or bad. I think that it's good that when I get a bottle of the Highland Park 12, or if I go to the bar, or if I go to a restaurant and sit down and have a really, one time I went to, it's funny, I should have got a better, I don't want to say a better dram. It's not a bad dram, but a more sophisticated dram. But I went to this really ultra nice restaurant in DC. The Vitaloggio brothers run it down there. If you know food, you know the Vitalogios, Brian. Anyway, I had a Highland Park 12. Solid. Glad I picked it, because I wasn't like, at the time when I went there, I wasn't as well versed in Highland Park, but it went well with the meal, and I don't, regret having a little bit of that heathery smoke with it, it all worked out really well. If I went with like a Lafroig or something peatier or Isla based, I probably would have fought with the palate with other things with the food. It's a good meal dram, and it's consistently good. So I think I'm gonna keep that, bump that up to maybe even a 9, 8.5 at the low end for consistency. Um, I just can't think of any of the drams. I've had the light a couple times. Um, had the trying to think of some of the other more obscure stuff that my Highland Park's way over on the other side, so I keep looking down this way. I used to have it up here, but I had to shift everything down because I was getting all these other bottles to put up, and unfortunately, some of them will only fit in certain sizes, so I have to play around with moving things around. Rock, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. We're talking Highland Park tonight. Was there even more than one batch of the light? I don't think so. That's what's kind of. I'm just talking bottle to bottle. Not. Don't think batches. Think like if I go and get a bottle of Highland Park 12, I go and get another bottle of Highland Park 12. I go and get another bottle of Highland Park 12. Is it consistent? Same thing with the 15, with the full volume, with the Dark Origins. And to me, I've had the Dark Origins actually a couple times too. And even though it wasn't my favorite, it was always the same, which is what we're really getting into. Well, all 12s are batch made. All batches will be the same. Well, yes and no. I mean, I think that there are factors, whether it be environmental factors, temperature factors, things like that, where yes, theoretically, if you have the same um, formula, you're going to get the same exact outcome. But the problem, though, with that is there's so many different things with the stills and with the way that things, unless they're like scientific laboratory grade, nothing will affect this at all from one batch to the other batch to the other batch, all 3 years worth of them. The difficulty is consistent batches. Yeah, I agree, but the batch, when we're talking like batch differentiations, like the Abanaz or the cast strengths on Lafroigs, things like that, I do expect those to be a bit different because they do change the recipes. But if you don't change the recipe, I expect it to be the same, if that makes sense. Um, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm overthinking this. I guess when consistency, let's think of it this way: is the quality consistent? Not even getting into batches and yearly releases and all that. Let's think of it like, okay, the 12 is what I would consider always a B plus dram. The 15 I would consider to always be a B minus dram. The 18 I would always consider to be an A dram. The 25 I'd always consider to be an A plus dram. And you could put the same kind of letters on all the other bottles. Are they always that quality? Let's look at it that way instead of picking out the batches and all that kind of crazy stuff apart. And I'd say they are consistently the same quality. I wouldn't go higher than 7.5 to 8 for consistency, personally, with a single batch for only variations. Yeah, I've had 25s that were great and those that are epic. So that means the consistency is not there, and that does. I'll take that definitely into account with Jason too. It sounds like both you guys are kind of iffy on their consistency. So I guess mixing my own personal, I was leaning towards like an 8 to 8.5. Jason was saying 7.5 to 8. Maybe meet in the middle and still go with an 8. Well, DHS, you think an 8's out of the question for consistency, quality level? I've had definitely enough of the 12 and the 15 and the 18 and some of these other ones to definitely say that they're pretty consistent It seems like, but not the 25s and some of the more tough ones. Eight's okay. I just struggle with how many different expressions. I agree with you there. Highland Park is a tough one to wrangle because they have so many offerings, and this is where we're coming to next. Variety. They kind of remind me of Springbank, but they're not near. I don't think they're as good with the some of the offerings because they don't have like with their style of peat. I don't think they have a completely unpeated offering, do they? I'm trying to remember if Highland Park has one that does not have any heathery peat in it, but DHS is way less variety. Yeah. I meant like as far as like you've got a boatload of age statements, you have a boatload of travel retail exclusives, you have a boatload of, the core range. They do have a decent number. I'd say no, they're not as high as the Springbank. I guess I shouldn't use them as a good comparison, but I mean they do have some. They don't have an unpeated offering. What do you mean no 15 year or no 21 year? They definitely have a 15 and 21 DHS. Oh, all are equally peated with no variety. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. That's why I took back the Springbank statement because I was going to say at first, wow, they do have a boatload of variety, but they dropped the 15. No way, did they really? But they re-released the 15. I thought, didn't they? Oh man, if they didn't re-release the 15, that's really sad. Because I was thinking that they were definitely going to do that, but I think you guys are right. 15. They have the old school one. You're right. They got a new 10. That's where they kind of differ because they did have an old 10, but they didn't really push it very much. I rarely ever saw the 10. And then they re-released the 10 as Viking Scars, which is kind of funny. But then yeah, you're right. They dropped. They picked up a lot of Travel Retail exclusives like the 14 Loyalty of the Wolf, the Voyage of the Raven, the Wings of the Eagle 16. I guess that's why they dropped the 15 because they figured, well, we're going to introduce two new Travel Retail exclusives with age statements. And they have an 18 Viking Pride Travel Retail Edition that's not the same as the regular 18, I take it. Dragon Legend and all that. So anyway, no, not as much variety as Springbank, but they do have lots to pick from. I have to give them credit, but they don't have an unpeated. Do they don't really do a lot of. I know they have had cast strength offerings. They don't regularly have them available. Um, Can you guys think of any cast strength offerings that they regularly have available? I have seen some in the past, like kind of like one-offs, like Fest Shield type stuff, but I haven't seen any on any regular basis or anything. I don't think the is the light considered cast strength at 52.9. That's where I kind of get in the weeds when I'm thinking about this because okay, they do a decent amount of single barrels that are cast strength. So they do have the single barrels and they do have the cast strength offerings. They just don't have very much fluctuation on peat. Really hard to ding them on the craft later on for that piece, but we'll talk about that later. Focusing on variety, though, they got a good travel retail market. They have a great core line that's pretty well versed. Minus the 15, I'm sad about losing the 15, though. I'm going to ding them a little bit on that. It might be just a solid 8 on variety then. I had a feeling that across the board they're going to sit well, but it's going to be kind of flat. They don't really, well, we might have to ding them on something here in a second, but we'll have to check that out. They're all sherried finished, 90% sherried finished. Okay. Not a lot of Well, they do have some red wine casks and stuff on occasion. There's a single cask strength here in Ontario, 12, 250 Canadian dollars. No thanks. Wow. Who have you scored a 7 for context as far as variety? I gave Kilhoman a 7 on variety. It looks like Glen Scotia got a 6 on variety. Glenmorangie got a 7.5 for variety. Just to give you kind of the fluctuations on variety. Hey, Juan, good to see you, man. A 7. I see what you're saying, yeah, because they do have more regular yearly offerings, kind of like Carriages, the private editions, and Highland Park doesn't really do that. Well, they do with the Valkyrie series. The NASs are kind of like that. Man, I might have to. They didn't have some of the other stuff though too. But yeah, 7.5 on the variety it sounds fair. Maybe 6.5. I don't know if I go that low. 7, 6.5, 7. 7, I think I'll meet you in the middle on it. I think 7 would be a fair, because they're kind of like Glen Scotia. They don't have they do have a good core. They're a little bit better, I think, when Glen Scotia on variety, though, because Glen Scotia doesn't have the travel retail exclusive stuff. So that's where it gets. No, I gave them a 6 actually. So okay, never mind. So yeah, comparatively, I think a 7 compared to Glen Scotia having a 6, I think is pretty good. I get it. Cork, Sherry, Shinnis, Bourbon, yeah, Nectar is NAS. Just listen to the left. I thought that the Nectar Noir had like a well, I guess you can't really I think they have like an understanding that it's like a 12 or something, but I can't remember why the reasoning. There is a reason why they don't do it. They might mix it with some younger stuff. I think it's a Sauternes cask, so maybe the I don't know. I thought it was a straight up 12. But anyway, focusing back on Highland Park, 7 I think is fair. Since I gave Glen Scotia a 6, I think that's relative. A statements, though. Now, they do have a good 12. They do have a 10 as well. They lost the 15, which kind of miffed me a little bit, but they did bring 2-3 new travel retails to kind of fill the void, the 14 and the 16, even though I know Jason wasn't really too keen on the 16 taste-wise, but it is an offering. They have, they're really good about going from the 18, they got the 20. Well, they had a 21. They lost the 21. They have a 30. They even have a 40 and 50. They have lots of age statements, even outside of the core. So it's really hard to fault them much about their age statements. And they do have a lot of NASs, but I think that they're well covered. I'd love to see an 8 or a 7. But that's kind of like, really getting nitpicky on that. They cover the higher end age statements pretty well, though. DHS still thinks that there's still too many NASs in the buy zone. The tough thing about it, DHS, though, is like we were talking about when you have some of these where they have more of a specialized cask. They don't really have a whole ton of that juice. They want to make it where they're able to release it, though, and if they have some 5-7 year old stuff, and if it makes sense with it, I think it's kind of hard to fault them for that because we're just talking age statements, you know. But yeah, I mean, who can afford an HP 25 plus or these 17-year limited editions? I can't, right? That's true. But I mean, they're there, and that's the thing. There are people, you know, out there that to them $500-600 for a bottle is nothing, and some of these guys do watch the show, so I got to kind of take it as the whole plethora, the whole, you know, big picture that you know, do they have something for the little guy, the 810s, 12s? They do. Do they have something for the middle of the road guys like myself, the 15s, the 18s, the 21s? They lost the 21, which kind of I'm kind of miffed about. Do they have something for the big boys, the 25s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s? So they are able to cover all that. So I'm going to give them a high rank on the age statements. Uh, you can't really deny it if you look at across the board. The only thing they've really lost is, even though they took the 15 and 21 away, they have a 14 and a 16 on the travel retail. They still have the 10, the 12, the 18, 25, and 30 for core. It's just the 18 in the middle class. Yeah, well, the 14 and the 16 in the travel retail is what I think you're not taking into account. And to me, when you factor in the distillery, you have to look at the core and the travel retail and the whole shebang. So I'm going to give them at least a 9 for age statements. I mean, I can't really, you know, if they had a 20, if they still had the 21, I would bump them up even more. But since they don't have the 21, even though they got the 14 and the 16, they dropped the 15 as well. It's kind of, yeah, see, I count those because, you know, you can still get even if you don't travel, you can get your hands on those pretty easily if you know what you're doing. I'm not going to go into how, because every state legal, you know, county legalization thing is different. And I don't want to, you know, say that I'm encouraging people to do anything illegal, but there are, you know, situations where you might be able to get your hands on a travel retail exclusive and not get it in the airport. So I'm not a fan of that. Yeah, I hear you. It's not, you know, it's costly sometimes. You know, I'm not saying it's cheap either, because when you're paying for shipping, no matter if it's salsa or whatever it is, that stuff can get expensive when you're coming from overseas, and that's part of the unfortunate part of the game that we have to play to get the good stuff, unless we live in Scotland. Sadly, I don't. Jason says, yeah, I didn't get the wings of the eagle sample in the airport. Yeah, I was going to say, I think that a 9 for what they're doing. And I want to applaud them. I mean, you guys have to give it up for Edrington, for Highland Park. They're not, you know, if they didn't release the 14 and the 16 travel retail, they'd be in worse shape. I think having those as options, listening to the public, and offering the new Twisted Tattoo at a 14 or whatever it is, doing these age statements is a good, you know, thing. Well, DHS, you know, if I wasn't factoring the travel retail in there, then I would agree with you. But since and that's why I was going to give them a higher variety score, because they have a ton of age statements and they have a ton of NASs. It's, you know, NASs, I know some people are really looking. I mean, I don't mind the NAS as long as you have the age statement as well beside it. The NASs to me are necessary for experimentation, for supply that you have, where you have some of these, you know, one-off casks that you can't just release a boatload of that. You have to do something with it. And you know, I don't know. That's something we could probably debate all night. But at least we're both passionate about it. That's the big thing, right? Jason says, not to be the actually guy, but I think 3 of their 4 Traverly Tux bottles have age statements. Yes, they do have a new 18. They have the 14 and the 16. That is true. because the 18 travel retail is not the same as the 18 regular, which makes it more complicated, but it is true from what I was reading. I'm just glad to put it all in a nutshell. I'm just glad that Highland Park had the balls to go out and do more age statements. Even though they have a shitload of NASs, I am glad they put their foot down and said, "Guys, we're going to do 3-4 new bottles of actual age statements." There you go. But how much of those do they sell? Well, they're brand new, DHS. It's kind of hard to gauge it because they literally just came out like less than 6 months ago. I mean, it'll be a good test, and I'm telling you that if it doesn't sell, it won't be around very long. So that's it. Anyway, let's go to availability. This is an easier one to rate. Minus the bar situation, restaurants. I do see them. I don't see them very often like I do other brands. Like, I tell you what, man, Diageo and Beam, Centauri, and these guys, the big boys, have their foot in the bar system where you can go and get you can get a Lafroig or a Lagavulin. Any of the Diageo brands are pretty easy to find in most bars. But I tell you what, this find a Highland Park just off the wall. It's not the easiest thing in the world, surprisingly. They are in every liquor store, so they're not going to get dinged very much on availability because you can pretty much find them at every liquor store, at least the 12, if not the 18. And even some of the NESs are pretty regularly available. I usually, anytime I go into a decent liquor store, they're going to have at least 3 or 4 bottles of Highland Park. That's just a given, kind of a one of X kind of thing. The only issue I'm going to have to ding them for is that though I don't really see them in the restaurant. Bar area very often. I didn't see one bottle of Highland Park 12 in the airport bars today. Huh. That's surprising. Old or new. Ohio has a Twisted Tattoo. Well, the Twisted Tattoo is an age statement. That's a 14, I believe, right? We just talked about that. The Valknut, the Valkyrie, even though they're not 8 NASs, they're like you're talking about probably the in the store. Are you talking about in the stores, DHS? Hey, Trooper, good to see you, man. I'm glad you got a chance to stop by. We're talking about Highland Park. Trooper, what's your feeling on Highland Park? We're on availability. How tough or easy or hard or is it in Louisiana where you are to get it? Here it's easy to get in the stores. It's a bitch to find on certain restaurants and bars, but yes, Dark and Light have age statements. Fire and Ice have age statements. There's a lot of them that do. The only thing that they don't really do a lot of age statements on are the Valkyries, that series, and the travel retail exclusives. The old stuff. The new stuff they have put age statements on. So but we're past that. We're on availability, guys. Well, it's Ohio, so that's what state has. Bars or stores can get them. No one bar with HP added. Okay. Huh. Magnus is likely their best seller these days. Bottle wise, I think you'd be surprised. I mean, I do like it for if you're not wanting to spend much, for a daily dram, $30, $35. I got a bottle for myself just to see if I dug it, and it was decent enough. It wasn't like something that I would get again, because if I'm going to go for a daily sipper, I'm going to bump myself up to at least a 12. I'm thinking maybe 10. I'd give it a try. I haven't had the 10, but I don't know. The 10 I think might gain some traction. The new 10 they just re-released. Drinking the Glenlivet Code. That's an interesting bottle there, Swami. Good to see you, Swami. That one I had to get warmed up to that one. That first sip, I remember it had some really. I mean, it was complex, but it had a lot of clashing notes to me. I didn't really dig it at first. When I sat back and I put like a little bit of water on it and I let it sit out for a really good while, I got much better, and I definitely enjoyed it. But to me, the Glenlivet Code to me had to have at least a smidgen of some water. Um, HP 1218 Valkyrie and Valknut, all that's available here. Huh. I'm surprised you guys haven't seen the Twisted Tattoo and the 10 and the some of the other, like the Voyage of the Raven, some of these other different ones. Dragon Legend. I mean, I've seen some of those in stores. It's all right. I'm thinking mostly port and bourbon cask with a small amount of sherry. Yeah, I think you're right, Swami, on the notes. It's just got it's kind of almost too eclectic to me. The code, at first I was like, man, what did I buy? But I tell you what, if you give it a little time, do the water thing, let it sit out for a bit, go back to it, I think you might enjoy it a little more. But that was my own, you know, feel on it. We'll say we're talking Highland Park tonight. There, Swami. How's the availability up in Canada for Highland Park? I'm just curious. Here it's pretty good, minus the restaurants, bars. Stores wise, I had to give them like on the stores. I had to give them like an 8 to 8.5. Bars, if I had to factor that in, it's very rare. I had to bring it down to like a 6 or a 7. Twisted Tattoo hasn't been around very much yet, it sounds like. Huh. The Valfather I haven't seen here yet, I don't think. So it's funny how some markets get things before other ones. Store rating 8, bars 01, yeah. Oh man, I think we'll have to take them down to like a 6.5 to 7. I'm leaning towards a 6.5 on the availability. Anybody else have a different number they want to throw in there than a 6.5 for availability? I've been waiting for the Valfather as well, because I've had the Valkyrie and the Valknut. I want to see how that goes. Enough availability for all the noobs with too much money, but not enough dollars to buy better whiskey. Oh man, wow. So you don't even like a Highland Park 18? I think it's a good value, 130. I think you can get the 18 for about 130. Swami, you think that's not a good value? You don't think it's a good bottle? I have to argue with you on that one, man. Yeah, 130 for the Highland Park 18 here in Maryland. It can't be that much more up there in Quebec, I would think, unless your taxes are freaking insane. Love finding the 15s, man. 15 is a great whiskey. The 18 is 150 in most of the country. Well, see, we get the shitty Glendronach prices, but the good Highland Park prices. That's the trade-off, I guess. Because it's 130 here, and I think that's an excellent price for an excellent whiskey. But that's just, that's just me. Don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's as good as you guys make it out to be. For 130 for 18-year-old, I don't know, man. I think it's pretty good, but the 15 especially, the 12, I mean, it's okay. But I know a lot more people are bigger fans of the 12 than I am, but the 15 and 18 I think are solid. I think the 25 is good, but I do think it's overpriced for what you can get. Like that 25 cast strength Highland Park exclusive malts, it was only $250, half price, and it was better probably. Be honest with you, but they have some good stuff. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to the availability. I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on 6.5 for the availability, because the bars just don't have it. let's talk value. Now, I know this is one of those things where for me the value is great with the 18 because I can get it for 130. For you guys, we're paying 150 plus. It's not such a good value. But taking into account not talking about independent bottlings, just talking about the straight up distillery stuff. Value, one being horrible value, 10 being the best value you ever got. When you spend the $300 it takes to get the fire or the ice, or the $300 it takes to get the dark or the light, that's where I kind of have an issue. I do think they're good, but are they worth $300? Well, DHS, they're both owned by the same company, Edrington. Of course, they're gonna, try to be Macallan because Macallan's the flagship and Highland Park is the sister. Glenrothes is the long lost cousin that they're gonna probably focus on next to get up to that level. But they're trying because that's their babies. I'm not saying they're doing it right. I think the high end stuff is overpriced. Value in the 12 is excellent. We're always seeing pics in Discord of it sitting on shelves for $30 or under. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen it that cheap. What's the 30? I'm sorry, what's the 12 go for here? Oh, man. See, here it's $55 for the 12. 25 is $700. That's way too high. I was thinking it was still like $500 to $600. I thought 6 was going to be like the higher price, but for 25, it's good, but it's not worth $700, guys. I'm sorry, there's no way. The Dark Origins is here still for 85. That's a good price, actually. I've seen it as high as $100 in certain areas because it's discontinued, but I wouldn't go that far for it. The Valkyries and the Valknuts here are $80. I think it's reasonably priced for those close, but most of them are a little too high, I think. So I'm gonna nick them like crazy for value, I think. Sadly, how bad? Yeah, unfortunately they nicked the 21. They don't even sell the 21 anymore, Swami. It's sad. I wish I had the 21. That's the only one I haven't had of the old stuff. I've had all the other old ones except the 21. Under 50 gets Lefroy, Glenmora, Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, and Spaber, and that's about it. Yeah. It's not easy to find a decent bottle for under $50. That's for sure. I finished my 21. I bet you did, man. I wish I bought a 21 while I had a chance. That's the biggest mistake I ever made was not finding a 21 before it was discontinued. Damn. Well, 1 to 10, guys. What do you think on value? I'm gonna lean towards. I'm thinking a 6. Sadly, I hate to ding the hell out of them, but it's kind of not so good on the price front. It's might even go as low as a 5, but I don't know. I think certain ones have good value. Like you guys were talking about the 12s and the 15 I thought was reasonably priced. The 18 I think is a good price. The core underneath the 25 is priced pretty well. The other stuff, the NESs and the I don't even know what some of these travel retails go for, but wow, value 6 definitely for Trooper. Yeah. Anybody else think that's too high on value? 6 out of 10, or is it too low? I'm just curious what you guys think. There weren't great value. Yeah. This one, I wasn't the INR. I gave it like a 3 out of 5. This one I'd bump up to about like a 3.5 out of 5. I think this is better than the INR. This is the Sven. NAS, unfortunately, so I can't tell if it's age, what the color is supposed to be, and all that. But let me go back to. Let's take a look at something real fast. Highland Park. Sven. This Yeah, NAS. It doesn't really have any hint of. It's just one of 6 bottles in the Warrior series of the global retail stuff they did before the new age statements. Um, but I'd be surprised if they bothered to color that, but you never know. Let's add a little water and see if it how it reacts. Great overall taste, though. Much better than I think the Anar. So I'm happy with that difference at least. I'm just going to give it a drop, literally a drop of water, just to see. Just trying to see if we're chill filtered. I think we are at 40. Because usually I can just see it running if it's maybe not. So usually you can see like a little feathering of, the juice when you're adding, if it's chill filtered. I suspect it probably is, because if it wasn't, they would say so. I'm pretty sure. HP doesn't use color, correct? I don't believe that they would bother with this. So craft wise, I think that this particular one is no coloring, but I think they do chill filter. Yeah. Hmm. Water doesn't really help that one. It maybe brings a little bit of a cream out. It kind of tapers down the nice spicy fruits and the. Is it still as drying as it was before? That might not be as much of an issue, but it's still No, I don't think it's colored, thankfully. So we're going to talk about craft next. Uh, the under 46 stuff, they probably do chill filter, unfortunately. Sorry, I had to show that because they were masking you, Moose. It's good to see you there, Moose, by the way. I think for craft, yeah, they're going to get some decent numbers. They don't color. The chill filtering, I think, kind of depends on the as most with the ABV, but unfortunately, I do think that they tend to do it more so than not. Let me see if I can find out on a couple other bottles real fast if they talk about it. No, they don't really specify. Even on some of their higher ABV stuff, like the Valkyrie's 49.5, they don't really state, I don't think. Anybody know if they do when they're if it's above 46, if they bother to do anything like that? I wouldn't think they would, but it's kind of hard to determine. Like some of these guys seem like they'll chill filter everything they touch, and some if it feels like that they only do it for things that are underneath like 43%. I really thought they would chill filter for over 46, but a lot of these drams, unfortunately, are under 46. All their travel retail stuff, can't talk about the new age statement stuff, but their old stuff is definitely all chill filtered then. Let's see, like the 1843, is that chill filtered? I wouldn't think it would be. Anybody know about the 18 new or old, if they bother with that being 43% if it's chill filtered? I'm looking to see if I can. Do you says be shocked if the 18 isn't chill filtered? Yeah, they're gonna get knocked on the chill filtering then, because that they shouldn't be doing that with these higher end drams at you know that that age. It just doesn't make sense. Filtered at 4 degrees centigrade. Wow. Well, that's a no-no. So we're gonna ding them for that. Any other craft issues you can think of? They do have the cast strength offerings. They do single barrels and stuff on occasion, I believe. I'm trying to remember if they have that as an option for their craft. Yeah. DHS is awesome. Can we knock them on crap for how stupid their marketing is? Wow. Oh man, yeah. I wish they wouldn't chill filter any of them. I agree with you there, Moose. They're going to get knocked on that. And yeah, it's funny because when I was talking about rating some of these distilleries, I was going to include the marketing as part of the issue, but I thought, well, I'll just talk about it. I'm not going to, you know, ding them per se, but you know, the marketing is extremely subjective as far as how it comes off. Because I mean, I tell you what, the one thing they do right is when I'm looking at all my bottles, and I've got a pretty good, amount of them going all the way across the room, and they do a good job as far as making the bottles pop, like the name, the heart logo at the top, the I can't speak to the new stuff, but the number, the A statement pops with the color scheme, and even the NASs. From a distance if it's a Valkyrie or a Valkna just by the color coding. The full volume is kind of cool with the amplifier, box release. I kind of liked it as a musician. I thought it was kind of cool. But yeah, the Vikings and the Fire and Ice, Light and Dark thing is a bit, I love the distillate, but the marketing puts me off. Jason even says, wow. Yeah, I do think it's overkill. I'll agree with you on that. I think there is a limit that you have to do. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example of marketing. I think Lagavulin it does pretty well because they have a straightforward box. The Nick Offerman thing's funny. I like him as a character. The brand. They're consistently good. They are kind of no nonsense with that. They don't really go over the top on anything like the Viking thing and all that. It's kind of, I don't know, but Lafroig's boxes and marketing is great. Yeah, they're pretty much just clean. They pop. You can tell what they are from a distance by the color coding. They're similar when it comes to that. But I'll agree that the Highland Park thing with the whole DHS likes the Springbank. I don't know, man. I think they're a little lackluster on their marketing team, but yeah, I mean they are pushing the craft of it, so I won't disagree with you, I guess, on that. I mean, I guess it depends on what angle you're coming from. But the Highland Park is on that extreme angle of taking it too far, which I think Macallan is almost, sort of like that to a degree. But they're both Edrington, and Edrington is, that's the way they play the game. But yeah, it is a bit a little bit much. But I'm not going to ding them for that for craft. But that aside, the chill filtering is a big issue. Thank God they don't color though. Jason doesn't like Ardbeg's marketing. I'm surprised, but it is a bit much on the boxes. I kind of like I love the design of the boxes. I think they do get carried away with some of the script, like on the Ardbog box. Like they had like a whole freaking story on the back of it. But for the most part, I think they got away from that and just do a solid box, with a nice design. It's definitely, it's Ardbeg from afar even. They're a little dark on their scheme, but I like a dark box. I don't mind it comparatively to the Lafroig stuff. Kilhoman does a great job with they're pretty basic, but I love the color schemes from afar. You know, a Seneg from a vintage just being blue. The red wine cask are of course going to be red, things like that. Sauternes is the greenish orange. I'm sorry, greenish light one versus the original cast strength, the more olivey color. I mean, they're pretty good about that. Hey, Samuel Cass, it's been a long time. Nice to see you, man. Too. Chaz says spring thanks. You're crazy, man. You are crazy. But that aside, so they're great. I think on the way they make their whiskey. I'm not going to ding them for the NAS stuff because they have all these experimental casts. They got to get through them. They have high volume. We're doing millions in volume with those guys. The chill filtering kind of burns me. I'm going to ding them. I am going to ding them for that. That said, I'm thinking for craft, comparatively, like, I think they're, as far as how they make their whiskey, how much better, if at all better, would you compare them to like Lafroig? Lafroig I gave a 7, and I think they're about on par with the craft aspect of it. Because with Lafroig, sometimes you're not sure about the like. Even though I don't suspect the color, they do I think some chill filtering on some of their lower ABV stuff. Sometimes, let me see something. I'm about to take you guys back here a little bit and see if I can tell on the bottle in a couple of these if there's any description. But comparatively craft wise, I think they're about on par with a 7.5. And I think 7 is low for Lafroig. 7.5 maybe for both. Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to affect their score tremendously if I bump Lafroig's up to a 7.5. I don't think anyway. Let me see something. 7.5. They're still, yeah, it's only a 0.00 to a 0.07 difference, so it's not like a huge difference. They're still a good A minus. So let's look at Highland Park and see what we got here. 7.43, which is leaning towards like a B plus, which is what I thought they would probably end up being. For the fact that I mean the value is a huge issue, as well as the availability in like your restaurants and bars. That's where they really get, I think, the brunt of the beat down. And it's still, I think it's more than fair. They're still a good brand as far as, you know who they are. You can definitely find a couple bottles, I think, that you can get into. You might not love everything, it's hard to find a distillery like that for anybody, where you love every single thing that they produce minus maybe one. And for me, that's Lafroig. And same thing with like Ardbeg. There's only like one bottle I'm not really a big fan of, but that's a rarity. Usually it's like you find 2 or 3 that you like, you find 2 or 3 that you're not really into. The ones that you like, that's I think that's a pretty good fair assessment of it. And these might change, I'll be doing these all throughout over time, and maybe even a new one next year. Depending on how many I can get through. And some of these will be easy to rate. Some of them will be very difficult because they might only have 1 or 2 offerings, and it's really hard to judge something like that. So I might have to put some of those guys on the back burner, some of the really new distilleries. But the ones that have been around a while, it's going to be interesting because we're going to start getting into the ones that I'm not going to be as kind to. And I'm not really being kind to them. I'm being fair. It's just that they have a whole lot to offer. And when you have a whole lot of things to offer, it's really hard to find things to bash you on because you cover the bases. You have that, basic dram for the new people. You see, the middle of the road stuff. You see the high end stuff for the guys that spends, $1,000 on a bottle and don't think anything of it. Um, oh wow. Jason says Lefroy kilns their own malt. Big deal. Yeah, that is true. Even same with HP, even though they only kiln like 20% of their own maltings. That's a good point, Jason. Thanks for bringing that up, actually, too. Because I forget some of when I get into the crafting side of things, I try to look up some stuff and try to learn as much as I can. But some of these guys are pretty secretive about how they do things. It seems like, unless it's, something they're really extremely proud of, you don't really hear about it unless you get that distillery tour or some inside information. And I haven't been there, unfortunately, yet. So sometime. DHS wants to see a Kleinleash review. Well, that's going to be coming soon. I do have the new Kleinleash Select Reserve, which is the Game of Thrones bottle. I finally got my hands on that one. I'm well versed in the 14. I want to get my hands on the Distiller's Edition before I give them a complete overview. Because with as much as John Glazer loves using them in Compass Box and all the independent offerings that you can find, it should be enough to go by. 12 Thomas, good to see you. I'm not sure if I've seen you before. Welcome to the show either way, if you're new or not. Have you had the Abelard Alba, the new one? I have not. It is on my to-do list. That's going to be hopefully one I can do soon. I have heard mixed reviews about it, but I always kind of hold my own till I really, get my, because I love the Abelard Abana. The batches I've had do differ a lot, but it is a solid dram, and I like the 18. So, with that said, I'd like to try it. Kleinleash variety 1.5 craft 12. Wow. The Select Reserve, those are 1,000 bottles. It's whatever the new, whatever the Game of Thrones release was. I think it's called a Select Reserve. It's nothing. It's not like $1,000 or anything. They might have tried to been selling for that, but they got a new shipment of those in, where I found it like in California, I think it was. So it's definitely, and it wasn't like above 100. Let me tell you what it's called, actually. It's so far across the room I can't see it. That's why I was going by what I thought it was. Let me give you the actual name, because I thought that's what it was called, but let me see something. Kleinleash Select Reserve Special 2015. Oh, this one's just called Kleinleash Reserve. Sorry. The Select Reserve, yeah, that's a whole different ball game. No, it wasn't that one. It supposedly, even though it's probably twice as much price wise, supposedly it's the same quality. So there you go. I haven't tasted it yet, but I am going to get my hands on that, and I want to get the Distiller's Edition. That's the only one that I don't have that I want to have. It's 46%. Finished an Oloroso sherry cask. Oh my God, it sounds unbelievably good. And if it's anything like the 14, which I love, it's going to be a badass. DHS says he's got 2 Select Reserves. No way is the Game of Thrones is good. Well, you better talk to the distiller people. They rated them both 87 out of 100. So there you go. I'm not saying, I was just going by the so-called expert reviews. You should give them an earful. Say, I spent $2,000 on this one. It's 56.1% ABV. Ex-bourbon refill, American Oaks Hogshead refill, a European oak butt too. Wow, that's quite a spread. And then you don't even tell you the cask type in the new Clownish Reserve Game of Thrones version, which is kind of funny. It's probably the same thing, but really, really a lot younger. I have a feeling since there's no age statement on it, it's probably something like that. The Raiders and the Steelers are idiots. Hey, you and I are both Raiders. At least we're not the expert Raiders, though. I guess, yeah. I gotcha. That's funny though. But thanks for definitely putting me out there. I'll never be able to afford the Select Reserve, but hopefully someday someone will throw me a little sample, maybe if I'm extremely lucky. How many of those review factor price into score though? They probably don't at all. I mean, I don't think you should if you're rating a dram like 1 star to 5 star. If it's good, it shouldn't matter what the cost of it is. But with value, that's why I rate on these distilleries. What's the value? What's the bang for the buck? So 290 is a great deal. The professional ones, huh? Yeah. The I'd love to get my hands on that though, DHS. You're lucky, man. Ratings that include price are a serious pet peeve of mine. Yeah, I agree. I think it should be straight up like, is it good or is it not good? That's why I don't try to put that into the factor of rating. If I'm doing a review on something like this travel retail, excuse me, I think the NR was 55 to 60. I have no idea what the price point on this is. It is better than INR, so if I had to guess on what I think they could charge for it, I'd say 80, 85, but it's probably priced the same, ironically, that's how it works. DHS says, or more or less gave away half a bottle of it at a tasting. People really helped themselves. It sounds like it, man. Damn. You got to pop that cork back on there and say, slow your roll. Telex has got to have a sip too. Oh man. Well, hopefully sometime I'll find it or something. I don't know. I'll probably it's a 2015 release, so the odds of finding that one are going to be slim. Was yours 2015 as well? There, DHS probably. I have a feeling if it's the Select Reserve model, I think it's 2015 only. At least they were brigaded. Back-to-back people poured 3 to 4 ounce pours. Jesus, they did not. Yeah, it's 2015. Yep. That sounds good, man. Ex-bourbon refill American oak hogshead and a refill European oak butt. Jesus. 56.1% ABV. Wow, man. That's insane. 2,946 bottles was the limit on that worldwide. Wow. Well, if it's 3,000 bottles, I actually might have a chance to still find it because thankfully Clynelish is not popular at like a Macallan or a Highland Park. So the odds of finding some of these one-offs that are 2015 is I found a Kalila 2015 unpeated recently that was well priced and it wasn't crazy. And it was from 2015. So you never know. I know of at least 2 unopened bottles in Ohio. Oh man, well, you snag one of those puppies and let me buy it from you somehow. I go to Kentucky sometimes. Snag one. Okay, this is what you do, man. Snag both of them, keep one for yourself, and sell one to me. Problem solved. Till Thomas says, I found a Parker Heritage Curacao on the shelf today for $72. Parker Heritage Curacao? Is that like blue Curacao? I know Curaçao's islands down there near like Aruba and what's the B? Bonaire. But I don't know if that's like rum or something. Is it whiskey? Parker Heritage Curacao. If it's not Scotch, I'm not familiar with it. My Whiskey's Views has one, and I have a second. Wow. Oh, you guys already bought it. I thought you meant it was 2 unopened bottles on like the store shelf. Damn. Heaven Hill year release. Okay, gotcha. Even though I'm from Louisville originally, I don't do bourbons really. I've been getting kind of into it on the side only because it's just easy to get a lot of them. But is bourbon finished in Curacao casks? Interesting, which is, I guess, are really a thing, huh? That's wild. I have not heard of that before. Must be a new thing too. I've heard that people are getting into not the cognac, but the Armagnac. Armagnac, is that how you say it? Armagnacs are a big thing now. I've noticed. DHS says there are 2 stores that claim to have a full case of Kleinlich at that price, but they claim that they can't find the bottles. Wow. Mm, that is crazy. I'm surprised that wow. I'll have to do some digging. The Armagnacs are delicious. Huh. I'll have to try it. I never tried it before. I definitely had cognac, and I've had a lot of the weird wine casks that they come up with. But the Armagnac ones are that's a new thing I've heard that people are trying to do. Found a I can't say it. Strathisla 12 2006 bottling at a store this weekend. Hope it's good. Is it a distillery bottling or is it a independent moose? And if it's an independent, who's the independent people behind it? I'm curious because I've had a Strathisla and I was not a fan of it, but it was a specific type of independent bottling. Yeah, if they find them, I'll buy another. It's rougher than a cognac in a good way. Okay, well. Oh, Strathyla. Oh, okay. Well, that makes it easy. Thanks, Jason. I should have thought about that because it's like Isla without the Y. But the weird thing is, in proper Isla, they pronounce it Ela, I believe. So is it Strathila? I think that's kind of like Kalila. I think that's even a misnomer that it's Isla because I think it's more of like an Ela kind of a pronunciation. But I don't know. Unless you speak to someone that's actually Scottish Gaelic, it's really tough to get into the deep weeds. I just bought a birthday year distiller. I'm not going. Interesting. I'll have to see if I can find one. Well, before we take off, I'm gonna have to talk to you guys a bit, maybe on your blends. Have you done your homework? I'm bringing up my blend spreadsheet here, and it looks like I've got my classic Lefroy 10 cast strength Glendronach 12. Wasn't all that great. It was iffy. It was decent, I guess. I also tried the Listau Oloroso Sherry drop with the Tinnick 10. And it was all right. But when I took the Tinnick 10 with the Listau, the PX Sherry, that was pretty good. So those are mine so far. I'm about to talk to you guys about a new one. Looks like DHS has his Glenlivet Lindura 16 year with the Glenlivet Lindura Oloroso. And it was awesome sauce on those 2. DHS, don't feel free to go back in there and put your blends in there. Do some more experimentations. It looks like a new one from Dram Dude. He did a Glencadam 21 and a Glentronic 21. 80% of the Glencadam, 20% of the Parliament, and it was awesome sauce. So I know those are higher end. It's hard to get 21-year-old whiskey, but if you ever have a Glencadam 21 and a Glendronach 21, don't be afraid. Alabama, Kalila. Don't ask me why I'm just confused Americans. Yeah. I just tried a blend of Deanston 12, Glengarry 12, and Kleinlich 14 last night. Okay, Jason, go in there and add it. I'll add it for you just to show you what it should be like. So I'm going to go ahead and add the Deanston 12, which I think I might already have in here. Don't I? No? I thought I did. No. Deanston 12. And we're going to put Glengarry, Grioch 12. And we're going to do Kleinlich 14, which I do already have here. So let me go ahead and take this one and move it down. So we're going to cut and paste it down to this line. Cool. And I'm going to find your names already in here. So Jason C. What percent, Jason, was the split, or was it an even 33, 33, 33? like in thirds. That does make a huge difference. I need to know if it was like, 33%, 33%, 33%, or if it was like some odd combination. Oh, DHS, that was what I was hoping that you showed up the last week, was when I was doing the Tininic 10 PX and the Oloroso Sherry combos. I was going to ask you about Tininic being a distillery to try, because you had the 17, but you did not like it, because I saw your review and it's pretty harsh. And the 10 I'm not a huge fan of either. But I'm trying to figure out things to blend. So maybe think profile wise. Like, I love PX with the Tininic 10. So if you have some PX Sherry, please try it with the Tininic 17 to see if you enjoy it, because I do enjoy the combination of the Tininic profile with PX, if that makes any sense to you. 50% Deanston, so I'm going to put, you'll see your name already here, and you'll see how I'm doing this, so you can do your own. 40% on the Glengarry 12, and 10% of the Klein Leash. Yes, we need to be specific so people can reproduce what you're doing. And was it awesome sauce? Excellent, recommended. I'm going to say that's awesome sauce. So we're going to color it the darker green color so it stands out, and we're going to make the typeface white so we can see it. Easy peasy. There we go. Done deal. So I'm going to save it, and it looks like Swami's got his Glendronach old pre-Brown-Forman Glendronach in here. With the Lagavulin 8, he did 20% of the Lagavulin 8, 80% of the Glendronach 12 Old, and he thought it was pretty good. Now, Gawkin, I'm not sure if Gawkin's in here tonight. I don't think he is. He did a Glenfarclas 17 and a Kilchoman Seneg, 80 to 20%, but he didn't put a color on it, so I'm going to have to get his butt in here so he can color code that. But I'm going to save it, exit out, and that way you can go in and if you edit it and it's tough, go get out, do it some other time, go in, save your thing, and it should be saved. It should work. So feel free to share your bad and decent and great experimentations in there, because that's just the only way we can learn on how to fine tune some of these. Because when you get into some of these peated profiles, like Lafroig does not taste like an Ardbeg peat, and an Ardbeg peat doesn't taste like a Springbank peat. And even if you get outside of peat, McKellen sulfur doesn't taste like a Benevis sulfur. Some of the properties are different. So what works well with one is not going to work well with another one sometimes. So this is the way we can track them. So PX, don't think I have a heavy PX bottle, believe it or not. Go out and get it for $30-$40, DHS. I just got one of these. They're not expensive, and it's fun to play around. This is the Oloroso version. Like $30. Just get you an Oloroso, and I got the same brand, the Losto PX version, and pop a couple eye drops worth in there to start out with. If you don't really get the taste as much as you want, put a couple more drops in until you get it, and I think you like it. Jason says it was really good, sweet, malty, nice and rich candy. I did give it about 3 weeks to marry, and that is something that I should put in this sheet. So let me go back into that real fast. I didn't even think about timing, but that does make a difference. Is how quick you are to. I'm trying to think of how can I put time in here though, because I'm color coding for, like the degree of how good it is. The percentages is basically, I guess maybe to the, I might put like the time to the left or something. We'll play around with it and see. DHS says, I just poured a 50-50 Tininic 17 and 2017 Macallan Classic cut. That would be Interesting. If the Macallan Classic Cut has no Oloroso in it, Oloroso and Tinnick does not match very well. Is it pure PX? Um, I mean, these are instant so far, but we'll on yours. I'm gonna put 3 weeks next to the left of the number. That way, we know how long it was. So let's do that. So if it doesn't have a time next to it, that means it was instant or like within 15 minutes or so. If it's like a timed marriage, then I'll put it next to the percentage. That way we know. I'm sure this is Oloroso. I'll be surprised if you like it at all, DHS, because I'm not a fan of Oloroso sherry with Tinnick because of the Tinnick. That the tin at least has a lot of mint and vegetal properties, and it did not go very well. Yeah, no, don't do this. Yeah, it did not marry. But if you get PX sherry or something that's pure PX sherry, give that a try, and I bet you that you will like it. It's the sweetness that brings that mintiness, I think, through and connects a lot better than just the Oloroso and the mint kind of vegetal stuff. I don't think it jives. But this is a way we can track this kind of stuff, though. It's kind of fun to be able to do this with you guys and share what works, for us and what doesn't. And this and definitely feel free to do, keep your own spreadsheets on the side too. If see if I got this color right. I don't think I did. 1 second. Oh, where's that color? Sorry, guys. I thought I had the color right, but I think I picked the wrong shade. I think that's right. It's close enough. I feel weird that I've got 150 plus open bottles and not one heavy PX. Yeah, it's surprising. That's why but this is why I thought, you know what, I'm going to be a purist and I'm going to go get sherry by itself. And that way, if I want to just get PX or just get Oloroso, I've got that option. And I've got another bottle of Amontillado sherry upstairs too. So I can just do Amontillado. I can just do Manzanilla. I can just do, whatever sherry I want to get right. Because Lefroy, like another good, a good representation of why this is important is Lefroy 10 cast strength. You would think theoretically would work with Glendronach 12. The problem is the peat profile of that cast strength does not work with the Oloroso, I think, of the 12. It just doesn't jive because of that TCP iodine deal. If it was PX, like the Lefroy PX cask with the Glendronach, with the Lefroy 10 cast strength, then I think it would work a lot easier. And this is why I think Lefroy doesn't do an Oloroso sherry version of their brand, because it just doesn't work with the peat that they use. Well, I'll add peat to this mix, so that might work if you can get the right peat to work with that Tinnick minty vegetal profile. I'm going to suggest you look at Kalila. Kalila does well with the moke with the vegetal properties. So I think if you're going to try to add peat, I would suggest a Kalila 12 or a Kalila moke or Portiseg maybe. If you've got some cast strength stuff, that'll work. But that's where I would probably try profile-wise to make it sing. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. And hopefully it'll grow over time. I've got lots of people in here that have blank slates, so hopefully they'll... and Louise Oka's in here, Rabbit, Everwind, Donner, Stephen Connor, Loch Ness. They all got little parts in here. Oh, Kilhoman 100% Isla. Isn't that more of a floral than a vegetal peat, though? I wonder if it'll work. That's my only worry, is that The Kilhoman 100% Isla, if I remember correctly, it was heavy floral barley kind of a peat, but it might work. It's worth a try. Just, whenever you're doing these experimentations, use very little product so you don't waste anything, please. Especially if you're using higher end stuff, like we're talking in the 15, 18 plus, years, 21-year-old stuff. Use very, very little. Yeah, this is a failure. Yeah, I was gonna say 100% Isla Floral City. I don't think it's gonna work with the vegetal. You gotta remember, Tinninek is like a really highly vegetal thing. So I'm thinking you're gonna have to stick to like more of your Kalila type of peat. I'm trying to think of another like vegetal peat. Kilkerran Springbank might, like the Springbank Green, that would work. Springbank Green might work with the Tinninek. Man, the Tinnink's a tough one because that mint in the vegetal property is pretty strong comparatively to other drams, and I think that's why I don't really get into it much. But it makes a good base for like they use it in Johnny Walker Red. I think is like is one of the bigger things. I think it was that one. But with that said, it's like unless you're blending it with something else, it just and you find something that really works. That's why I thought the PX thing was better. Hey Sean, I'm all for experimenting, but small batch is better. Just be precise, so you can recreate the good ones. Yeah, good to see you, man. Have you been lurking the whole time? You're pretty good if you've been lurking the whole time, I'll say. But yeah, this is the reason why we're doing this, is just to have track of some of the things that work and some of the things that don't. I'm not sure you want to know how I saved it. Just a little lurking. And Sean, feel free to pop in there, put your name in the column, and put the whiskey on the left. Put the percentages in of what you use, color code it based on the legend at the bottom if it was iffy or stay away or pretty good or awesome. And this way we can kind of track what people are doing on the side. And kind of a side note, you kind of gave me an idea, Sean. Maybe we could do a tasting, like food pairings on the side. What works with the food? Did you pour in a seam? God bless, man. I'm going to have to pour something for that. I think I'm going to have to finish out this Highland Park before we call it a night. That's funny. Zima is not much. A $200 bottle? Cocaine? Is that what you put in there? Cocaine? What did you... A $200 of what? This is not a luxury whiskey. Oh, you use a compass box to do it. Wow, I think we'll have to just count that as you saved it. I wouldn't even bother trying to recipe that one. I'm trying to keep these to single malts too, without getting into the weeds. Unless you're just using like PX or Oloroso like a sherry. If it's straight up sherry, that's okay. But I wouldn't start putting a bunch of like already blended whiskeys in with other blended whiskeys, kind of thing. Only whiskey that I had that sweat. What? Oh, sweet, probably. Yeah, it needs something sweet to really, I think, hang with the Tinninek 10 or the 17. It sounds like they're probably similar profiles. Just an older deal. It's just such a shame that it was a 1-star whiskey on the 17 Tinninek, man. That's sad to spend that much money on something and it just not work out. That's why when I was getting into some of these, when I was collecting all the boxes of different distilleries, I got into some of these and I'm like, I've had the base and I just don't want to go into some of these that are 2.5, 2-star whiskeys. It's just not worth $50-$60. And when you get to the higher end stuff, it's definitely not worth that. I only have 3 or 4 choices in the hotel with me. I don't think I'm blending these. No, you don't have to do it now. I'm just saying later on. This spreadsheet's live for everybody at any time. You can go in my channel, go to discussion at the top, and get to it that way. And you can do it whenever you want. I got it on deep discount for $150. Yeah, I still suck. That was a big discount. Yeah, for $150, man, you want that sucker to at least be a 3.5-star whiskey, you would think. But now I feel you. That's why I'm thinking this is going to help a lot of people, because if you look at the profile and you notice, okay, he says Tinnick does not work with Oloroso, but it works with PX. And then you see another person that does the same thing, and if they get the same kind of rating, then you'll feel a little better about trying it out on yourself, without feeling like there's much risk, involved. So the yellows and the reds are the ones that you should not even bother with. The light green, dark green ones are the ones that are proven to be good, and people put their name and percentage and their score on it. So, I don't think I would question them too much on it. The iffy one, not iffy, but the pretty good ones are kind of more probably subjective. But the awesome sauce ones, I'd say if someone's willing to say it's awesome sauce, it's probably going to work for you, I would think, unless you just despise the base that they're using for their blend, and I wouldn't even go there. Like if you don't like, Springbanks at all, then definitely I wouldn't, go all in and start trying it, even if everybody else likes it. But if you do like the base and you are just curious and you see it's a dark green, then I would definitely pull the trigger and at least give it a try, unless it's, hundreds of dollars or something like that. But we're going to save this. I'm going to save what I got. And yeah, Jason, if you want to put the marrying age in there, like 3 weeks, feel free to do that. I did that on yours already, and I saved it and got out of it, so it should be up to date. And we'll see how it grows. And I might put a second sheet in there for pairing. Sean kind of gave me the idea of we could maybe track with which stuff goes with maybe certain types of food. We don't have to get to specifics, but like, maybe let me see something. I'll do a new tab. We'll just call it pairing at the bottom. Food pairing. Sorry, food pairing. And the original sheet, I'll just call it blends, because that's what they are. And do the same thing. Let me just copy the whiskey on one, put it on that. Sorry, just give me 1 second, and we'll do the names at the top. But instead of percentages on blends, put in maybe what type of food it was, and give it a color score if it works or not. For example, I'm just going to go ahead and do one that I know that works. Lagavulin 8, right? Lagavulin 8. It's a breakfast dram to me. So I would actually eat a nice breakfast with it. I mean, it tastes like it. I think if I had Lagavulin 8 and if I had like scrambled eggs, cheese, and bacon, and I think it actually would work pretty well. I don't know. I'm not going to use that that's a bad analogy, but let me think of something that food-wise. Highland Park 12 I had with at a high-end restaurant before that worked out really well. I'm trying to think of what type of food it was, and if I remember correctly, it was seafood, like fish and shellfish, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and color code that with a dark green, and I'll make the lettering white so people can see it. But that'll be my example, and feel free to add whatever whiskey you want, whatever age, just label it, put the food, color code it if it worked, if it didn't work, and maybe we can track some of those in there as well. Just save that, get out of it so you guys can mess with it. But just an idea. I would experiment with food pairings. You could be surprised what goes together well. Yeah. So that's going to be in the spreadsheet in a different worksheet on a tab at the bottom. It'll say food pairings. Feel free to put in there what you've already tried, what's worked. Use the same color scheme of, stay away, or iffy, so-so. Then there's the pretty good, and then there's the awesome sauce one. So to be honest, I didn't like the Kilhoman 100% a la much, or the tin and egg. So this is a kind of win-win. Moose still thinks Springbank sucks. You're crazy. I hope that's sarcasm. Finish, however, sucks, but no shocker there, given the two of those had bad over oat finishes. Yeah. That's the thing, is you gotta, when you're doing your blends, you really gotta think profile. What kind of peat is it? What kind of sherry is it? What kind of everything? Down to the, is there overly oaky stuff going on, like the Lafroy triple wood? You're not going to mix that with the Glenmorangie Star. It's going to be crazy oak everywhere. It's going to be the oakiest thing you've ever tasted. But unless, that might be your favorite profile. If you're huge into major, oaky drams, then that might be a good combination for you. But too much of one thing is usually not a good thing, unless it's I don't know, like a Port Ellen 50, I guess. But you know what I'm saying? Too much of one profile is just it's just not going to be a good thing. Well, thanks so much, Scott, for hanging out with me. I do have to work tomorrow, so I have to cut it off, but the time flies by, and it's fun to have a dram with you guys and just shoot the shit. So really appreciate it. Hopefully Edrington will notice that, with their brands, with their distilleries, they're doing pretty well, but got to work on the value. There's got to be a way to tone these prices down, and with specifically with let me get back over here with Highland Park. Sorry, mine was blank for a second. With them, the value and the availability. I mean, I like to see a lot more availability in the bars and the restaurants, for sure. Early morning again tomorrow, so getting out will be. We'll be thinking about blending at the bar this weekend. Night, guys. Hey, thanks for coming by, Sean. Really appreciate it. Jason Coates, definitely. The debates on the distilleries is always fun. You guys are really passionate about it, and I appreciate your input, because I do know a lot about like these that I'm doing, but you can't taste everything. And if I can't taste everything, I'm sure between some of you guys, your input, we can kind of get a good collective score, at least from fellow connoisseurs and people that at least like Scotch a lot. We can get a good number out there to show them where they are and how they can get better in time and improve. So we'll see how it goes with the next one. I have no idea where we're going to go, but it might be something like a Glenlivet possibly, or a Glenfiddich maybe. Or it could be something just, I might throw a curveball and do something off the wall too. I got to be fair with some of these, because some of these haven't been around very long, but we'll see. Well, night, and see you guys. Salancha Va. Hey, thanks for stopping by there, William, as well. And all for the Norwegians out there, takk for sist.